As a Coloradan with over 2 million acres of public land in my district, I understand the profound importance of protecting our nation's treasured lands for historical, spiritual, and cultural purposes. And while that is certainly reason enough to protect our national monuments, there are countless economic benefits as well. In my home state alone, the outdoor industry generates $28 billion in spending and 290,000 direct jobs. And the impacts stretch even wider. I'd be remiss to not mention that as a direct result of this administration's choice to rescind Bears Ears, the outdoor retailer trade show relocated to Colorado after 20 years in Utah. Not only is the decision to rescind these monuments morally questionable and economically unwise, but I think it is fundamentally illegal. The Antiquities Act, as has been mentioned today, does not grant the president authority to eliminate national monuments, and I believe this unprecedented rollback of federally protected lands is disheartening, not just to me, but to countless of my constituents who care deeply about the protection of public lands. I want to thank the tribal leaders for their work in trying to secure these national monuments and also recognize a constituent of mine who is very active in this regard, Professor Charles Wilkinson, who happened to be one of my professors at the University of Colorado School of Law, who I know worked with many of the tribal leaders here today. I want to ask you a question, Ms. Clark, with respect to the written testimony that you offered and that you read on behalf of the governor of Utah. My understanding, I'll quote from the written testimony, is the governor's words and yours, that, quote, we should all be able to agree that 1.35 or 1.9 million acres is far larger than what the Antiquities Act envisioned. That's from the testimony that you offered today on behalf of the governor. Are you aware of Death Valley National Park, which was originally designated as a national monument? Are you aware of how many acres were originally designated as Death Valley National Monument?
No, I'm not.
So that's almost 2 million acres. Are you aware that this monument was established via the Antiquities Act?
I was aware that the Antiquities Act was underpinning it.
And it was done by a Republican president, by Herbert Hoover, in 1933. Are you aware of Glacier Bay National Monument in Alaska?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I would encourage you to visit. Are you aware of how many acres were included in Glacier Bay National Park when it was designated as a national monument under the Antiquities Act?
I am not.
All right, that number is 1.4 million acres. Are you aware of when that was designated as a national monument?
No.
All right, it was designated in 1925 by a Republican president, by President Calvin Coolidge. So it is safe to say that the Bears Ears is certainly not unprecedented by its size, contrary to the testimony offered by your governor. What is unprecedented is the rescinding of a monument, as we've talked about. Now, I want to follow up on one item that's been discussed today by several of my colleagues, and that's the New York Times article from March 2nd of 2018. The title, Oil Was Central in Decision to Shrink Bears Ears Monument, emails show. As I am sure you are no doubt aware, there are a variety of emails that were published by the New York Times that expose very intentional inquiries into whether mines or processing facilities were near or adjacent to monuments, and the oil and gas potential within those monuments and how protection of federal lands may have affected mining. Can you describe any consultation between your office, between representatives of the Utah state government and the oil and gas or mining industries, specifically as it relates to discussing revoking or adjusting the Bears Ears National Monument?
I am not aware of any discussions between those parties. Some may have spoken, but I'm not aware. I'm not aware of a great deal of interest on the part of the oil, gas, mining industry in that area.
Can you describe the consultation between the representatives of Utah state government and the 5 tribes in support of the Bears Ears National Monument?
Governor Herbert and his administration were very supportive of the Public Lands Initiative that was chaired by Congressman Bishop and Chaffetz. And during the course of that effort, which spanned 4 or 5 years, there was a great deal of consultation about the very area in question.
And as I understand your testimony, I believe you said something to the effect of that there wasn't much interest from oil and gas companies with respect to Bears Ears National Monument. And so I guess the question would go to the director of the state director for Utah of the BLM. Sir, as I understand it, there was an unprecedented lease sale earlier last year with respect to lands that are adjacent to Bears Ears. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And that was unprecedented in terms of the size and scale of those leases, correct?
It was large compared to those we've had over the past several years. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I see my time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chair.